Hey everyone, welcome back to the Inside AutoMind podcast where we explore the minds behind logistics and technology. I'm your host, Dustin Andrade. Today we're joined by Yudi Persaud, founder and president of SK Cornerstone Group, one of Canada's fastest growing logistics and transportation companies. What makes Yudi's story so inspiring is that he came from Canada to Canada with nothing, built a company from the ground up, and leads a multi-million-dollar operation built on consistency, integrity, and deep focus on people. Yudi, thanks for being here.
Hey, Dustin, thanks for having me in your show. It's a pleasure to pass on knowledge to the new generation and be a part of the AutoMind family.
Yeah, I was really excited for this one since we're going to take a little bit of a twist and kind of get into that entrepreneur and mindset stuff. So it's going to be really good for the listeners. But let's start with a little about your story. You mentioned before that your journey isn't about trucking or just trucking. It's really about entrepreneurship and resilience. Take us back to the early days. What was it like starting out and what motivated you to build SK Cornerstone?
Well, there's a couple of corrections on that. It's not really SK Cornerstone. I always wanted a trucking company, so let's back it up here. We used to own a farm back in South America, and my parents at the time, due to whatever happened there, I found myself in Toronto. And once I got to Toronto, I worked with a trucking company called the Gardewine Group, basically sweeping trailers. And I always wanted to own my trucking company or my name on the door one day in logistics. One of the things I like about trucking is you're not doing the same thing every day. And that hooked me at 17 years old. I was on a cross dock and I was making premium pay because I got paid due to work ethic, not for the skill. And I moved up the ranks over the time and I worked there for 10 years. So I went from basically an entry-level dock person to running an entire terminal in 10 years. Once I saw that, I realized there was more potential and there's more to come. Trucking is very capital intensive and I have to ensure I got enough funds to actually start this company, which I actually didn't at the time. And we gathered information and purchased SK Cornerstone. It was a smaller company back then, and then 10x'd it, as Mr. Grant Cardone will say.
So what was the point where you knew you were onto something big? Was it like before you bought SK Cornerstone or after?
There was no point that I knew was onto something big per se, because I show up every day and I work hard and work harder and smarter. And the thing about long-term relationships, they take a long time before you see reward. So it's the difference of planting avocado crop versus planting your backyard garden. Our business is basically an avocado crop because it takes so long for it to produce. And you have to nurture that tree. And here we are reaping our avocado crop for a very, very long time and at the ground level.
Nice. I like that analogy. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced when you guys after you bought it, but what in those early days?
Well, there's a few major challenges. I think one of them is definitely finance. If you capture the art of finance, you capture the art of running a successful trucking company. It's all in the books. It's all in every dollar you save will bring 1,000 at the end. It's all about saving pennies. It's not about the flashy, fancy trucks. Chromes don't get you home. It's very disciplined financially, and I think that's most importantly.
Okay, yeah. So one thing that I notice about you is how consistent you are, posting every day and what we previously talked about, staying engaged, keeping that energy. The level of discipline, it takes a lot for a role like this, and how big of a role has that played in your, consistency and your success?
You mean being on like LinkedIn, for example?
Well, I think that's one of the things we did speak about specifically, but I think that translates to everything that we also spoke about, how you're consistent in everything you do. So it seems like that's a big part of your success overall.
I think consistency is key. Discipline is great. Listen, discipline is great. You can have discipline with your wallet. Let's, for example, money-wise. I'm very disciplined spending from Monday to Friday, but Saturday afternoon comes around and you're at the casino rolling everything you've gotten. Well, there's no point of being disciplined all week. And I think that's something that is very important. Consistency over discipline always wins. And that's something that we've we've done here in the last 10 years with our team, is being very consistent.
Okay, so I think based on what you said, you would probably say it's about discipline over motivation.
Yes.
Okay. So what keeps you grounded when things get tough or, when burnout starts to hit? Like we were mentioning before we hit record there that you're pretty busy. So how do you avoid that burnout from?
I don't overextend anything. I don't overextend myself. I don't overextend the team. I don't overextend the network. We try and keep it very rounded to staffing levels. And yes, could we run this company with a few less employees? Absolutely. But overstaffing is something you hear all the time. We're not overstaffed, we're adequately staffed. And I think that's, delegating some responsibilities to other people that can do it better for you. Like I told you, my calendar is actually not handled by me. Nicole, our director, handles my calendar because I'm horrible at time scheduling, and I hired for where I'm weak. I was weak in operations when it comes to my time management, and Nicole stepped in and she looks after my scheduling per se. And, once that happens, automatically we move forward because we're very consistent on the timing.
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that at all because it sets you up to have time to do things that are going to push the business forward. So, everybody knows their strengths, and sometimes you can have people help you, with different aspects of the business.
One of the important thing in trucking that people, and that's not even trucking, any business, it's okay to say you need help. It's okay to put your hand in the air and says, hey, I don't know something, I need help. And us as entrepreneurs, we don't raise our hand enough and ask for help. And who do you ask for help? And that's something that, I've turned to a lot on YouTube for personal help, maybe on time to time. Definitely listening to financial help from different analysts and form your own analogy, and people that have done it before. We're not reinventing the wheel at SK Cornerstone. There's nothing that we're reinventing here. The difference is we are people first company, and you see it all the time, but it's very important, and our people is our number one asset.
Very true. Very true. That customer relation is a big deal. Kind of just real last thing to touch on discipline. Do you think that's something people can learn, or do you think that's something that's kind of wired in you and you're born with it?
So I equate my discipline to this little trick I learned from back home in South America. Being the son of a farmer, my dad woke up every morning at 4:30. He would be in the fields at 5:30. And one of the things that he taught me to do, and this is definitely to him, is stupid as it sounds, is to make my bed. I make my bed every single day, no matter what or what time I wake up. And I think that one of the reasons why I do that is because no matter how terrible my day gets, it can get very terrible, from a phone call to, a truck that's broken down to an angry customer. When I go back home at the end of the day, the bed's made up. So I've accomplished something before my mind's getting distracted. So I've won. I've gotten up. I've lived to see another day, and I've won. And I go out there and knowing that I've gained success. No matter what happens, no one's getting to me before I made up my bed. And it's a very small thing that I do. And it's worked out for me. And try it sometime. And it's just sometimes you walk back in and your bed's made up at night and you're like, ooh, I get this. It's very, very minor. It takes less than 45 seconds to do, but it's very important.
No, for sure. And that translates into bigger things. Some people don't even have the discipline to do that, what you're mentioning, and it's like, how do you have any discipline to do anything, let alone try to be an entrepreneur or run a business when you don't, you're your own boss and you don't have someone on you saying, hey, you got to do this at this time, or, this needs to be done, or stuff like that. So it's a big deal translating into entrepreneurship in general.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to where you are now and where you're going to be. This company we weren't successful at the first 4 years. We were almost bankrupt, and it's discipline, it's consistency. It's, you run a company in the first year, you show a 6-figure loss. You have to go to the bankers the second year and say, listen, I need help. There's something wrong here, and what are you doing wrong, and kind of break it down. So
you said before, your goal isn't just to run a business, is to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs in trucking. So If you were sitting across from someone who's maybe, let's say, 18 or 19, and they don't want to go to school, they want to figure out how to build something real, what would you tell them?
Stay away from trucking. No. I think you have to want to differentiate. Do you have a job or do you have a career? And you have to. I had a gentleman in my office 2 days ago, and he hit me up on LinkedIn, and he said, "Hey, do you have time on Monday, which is Thanksgiving Day?" And I said, "Well, he was in the area. He traveled from far, and it's an American person. He's driving back. He was in Toronto visiting family. He lives in Chicago, and he's stopping in at my office on Thanksgiving Day, Canadian holiday." I said, "You know what? I'll come into the office and I spend 20 minutes with you." And he's had his job for 7 years, and he's sort of a lost cause when it comes to, he's not sure what he wants to do, I guess. And I said to him, I said, "Are you prepared to work for free?" And he's like, I can't do that. And I said, "Well, then I think you should go get a job." Because the reward of instant gratification is not something that you would find in entrepreneurship, and especially in trucking. It is 10 years. Be prepared. If you enter in 17, at 27, you're going to come out knowing a whole different era. And that's something that I was fortunate enough at 17 to be in this business. So when I got to, at 27, I already had 10 years of experience. And we never had the YouTube motivational videos. You never had any of that when I started. Right? You never had any of this. You would have to listen to I'm going to give away my age here, but Tony Robbins on VHS tapes. And one of the interesting part is I went to a Tony Robbins event live in Toronto a while ago. And shout out to my friend Matthew Zarziski. Matt and I went to Tony Robbins live in Toronto, and it actually changed my way of thinking. And so inspiring the new generation is something it has to come from within, and you can tell everybody that, hey, this is going to change your life, but until you're actually ready to do it, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah, I totally felt everything you said. Being early on in my whole entrepreneurship journey, it's rough. I can feel all that, and I like that you actually had that mindset about inspiring the next generation. I feel like people tend to kind of try to hoard knowledge, the older folks, and it's kind of a shame because I feel like a lot of that knowledge could be passed down to the next generation, and we would all be better for it.
Hoarding knowledge is something that it's being done to a different degree in today's market. I think the era of holding knowledge it's run by leaders by fear. I think if you fear your leader, it's ran company like that is, if I tell somebody how to clear the border with these trucks, well, maybe they don't need me one day. Or if I explain to them how I build the routes, maybe my job here will be obsolete. It's not the people you have to worry about in your office. It's technology. It's yourself. Be confident in yourself. And I said it to the team here. I have to give up one of the hardest jobs there is in this company is the planning. I gave that job up to pursue growing the company. I'm a great planner. I'll tell you this. Nobody in this company can plan anything better than I can, and they all can tell you. But I am better as a leader than a planner. So, at the time I was a dentist doing the job of a brain surgeon. Are they both doctors? Yep. Can one be better for fitted? Well, that's where the version of SK came up. And that's why you see me more out there in the market, doing more marketing, growing the brand, more on LinkedIn, more social media, and so forth.
Great analogies. That was another good one. So on the flip side, though, let's say people that have been in logistics maybe for decades, but they feel stuck. What do you think they need to hear right now?
Depends on your decade. So let's take an example, a CEO that's at a company role level, mid-manager, basic entry level. So it's four different levels of employment, let's just say. So your entry level, you have to decide, okay, does the company you're working for have a future? What's their leader? What are they doing? And what's the outlook, right? And be a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for here? Be a little bit personal, be a little bit selfish. That's the word. As an entrepreneur and being within a company, being young, I think you have to be a bit selfish to yourself. And selfishness in this business is great to a certain extent. So let me give you an example. If you are 100% selfish, you're a psychopath. You're absolutely, we don't want that. But if you are, let's say, 55% selfish, meaning you look out for yourself to a certain extent and you look for a long-term future and you're within an organization, you're a fantastic person to move up and build your own brand. Selfish doesn't mean that you're always for yourself 100% of the times. It means that you look out in the interest of you, your team, your company, your group, your people. You're selfish in that extent because you nurture people in your group or under your umbrella. And that, I think, is important. The other thing is, what part of the brand are you? So, for example, are you a dock worker on a cross dock somewhere thinking driving this forklift is all I got as a dead end job and this is what I'm going to be doing forever? Well, if you're going to think like that, you're going to say, no, I don't want to step in dispatch for a day. No, I don't want to go in a truck for a day. And no, I don't want to do this, or no, I don't want to work weekends. I was the yes man. When I worked for doing the cross dock stuff, when I started, I worked every single Friday night. I was the closer. They gave me the keys and said, Yudi, we need you to close every Friday night. Well, guess what? Closing is not just closing the doors and walking out. Closing is make sure the lights are off, the trucks are all plugged in, everything's prepared for Monday, the driver envelopes, everything. So that's part of it. So from an entry-level perspective, yes, that's something that when you take on that responsibility, you have to want to do more. There's nothing wrong with doing your job. Hey, listen, I just want to dispatch my trucks and go home. There's nothing wrong with that. But what's going to set you apart is actually picking up the phone and say, hey, Jim, or whoever your driver is, how's your day going today? I know I'm off work. It's not my job to call you, but, how did my route go? Is it okay? Yep, no problem. Stay safe out there. Or, you know what? I looked at your tires this morning. I was out there. I noticed that your windshield wiper one was stuck. Was everything okay? Did a mechanic fix it? That's the difference between a dispatcher and somebody that's company and culture driven. So that's from a dispatcher level. From a corporate middle management, your director level, what is it that they're looking for? What is their end goal? What is their 10-year plan? Is the company buying another company? Are they expanding? What's the growth strategy? At SK Cornerstone, we push to grow 10% a year. That is a reasonable growth for us. The last 3 years, we've grown 18% growth. We're pushing for 10. We've had cases where we have to turn away freight, not because we don't want to grow, it's because it's not the right fit for us. The culture of the other company has to be a part of what we're trying to build here. Culture is very important. Money's important. We're not turning away freight, but your cultures has to try and align with our organization. So we've got customers, they're great paying customers, fantastic, but they're hard on our team. They're hard on our people here. And I don't want a culture where a customer keeps calling and demanding and shouting at the team. That will be zero. I don't tolerate any of that. And that's a different culture we try and bring. As far as the CEOs across the board that are in a large corporation, that's personal. Is it pay or is it legacy? I don't work for pay. I work for legacy. What I'm building here over the next 10 years will be cemented as Southern Ontario's premier logistics company. That's what I'm working on. I'm working on the next generation. Our team, we have a median age of 38 years old in this company. Across the board, I think that's one of the struggles that we face is experience. And as the team ages, our group is going to get better over time.
Well, for sure. I love the way you broke it down, especially by the different levels of employment. That was perfectly said. I think that's powerful because it could apply beyond just trucking. So it sounds like it's about having the right mindset, believing in yourself, and having the right amount of selfishness.
Yes, and I think knowledge is power. I do listen to around 25 books a year.
Okay.
I do listen to roughly 25 books a year. And there's a few powerful books out there that actually changed my life. And I know this is going to sound really cliche, but some of them are really, really weird. And they've actually helped me in some ways to change my perspective on things. And one of them is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I think every person that's want to start their own business should actually read that book at least once, and then start with Why. That's another one of the books out there that I really like, and they've definitely helped me.
You guys heard it. Go check those out. I'm going to check it out myself for sure. We'll switch gears a little. Let's talk about a little bit more about SK Cornerstone as a company. So you guys, ever since taking it over, you've built, an incredible organization, like you were mentioning, growth over year, mostly organic growth. So not relying, I guess, on big marketing budgets or huge sales teams. But what's been your approach to building lasting relationships and trust in this industry?
So we're going to back this up to what really, 10 years ago, I purchased this company with a bunch of friends, and never go into business with friends. And they had no idea what real work ethic was. And we were out there partying every weekend, and we thought that buying a trucking company was that easy. Well, we quickly learned the hard way. And one of the things that we found here was, as a group and as a company, you have to want to make sacrifices. And when it comes to this company, we've slowly gained mass. And when I mean mass, outreach, and we definitely do not spend money on advertising. We do not have an advertising budget. We do not have Facebook campaign. We put stuff out there, and it's all organic. And the reason why we do it organically is because it's done organically, because it's true content. It's true. This is what it is. And I'll give you an example. 3.5 years ago, actually 4 years ago, I did a giant project. I did a very, very good project. It's for a very large retailer. And I approached them. It was my idea. And we've got about 6 meetings with them, and they absolutely loved it. They loved every moment of it. And they said, listen, we're going to award the project to you. Sorry, they're going to award the project, but not to me. And I'm like, excuse me? They're like, yeah, we're going to award the project not to you because we have no idea who you are. We have no idea who you are socially. We have no online presence. You have no online marketing. Nobody has a clue who you are. You have 4 people on LinkedIn that follow you. So I took that personally, and I left that room, and I said, okay, I'm going to guarantee you're going to know who SK Cornerstone is. I left the room with my chin up, and I marketed the crap out of the company personally over the last 3.5, 4 years. And they reached out to me a few months ago and said, hey, would you like to team up with us? And I politely declined them because, again, they weren't the right fit for our company. And I had to make some changes to what we do. And I definitely declined that because, again, the pricing wasn't the right fit and the culture was not the right fit.
I like that. I like your priorities. If the culture and the relationship isn't right, then you won't do it, which I feel like that's hard to come by. I feel like a lot of people have a price, and if they meet the price, they'll work with them no matter if they're probably a bad client or not.
Yes. I mean, we align ourselves multi-level layer alignment with the customer base. So typically what we've done differently here is, it's not a secret sauce or anything. Myself, I talk to the owners or the decision makers. Our team gets together with their team. Our accounting department actually gets together with their accounting department. And it's remarkable when teams network over time. I'm talking about our, not our everyday shipper, but our 20 largest customers, for example. And we have a cross-knit teamwork. And I actually, make the warehouse manager go talk to their warehouse manager. And when the trucks are loading, we actually have that, and I think that's helped because the decisions are solved, are made at micro levels versus, every 5 emails you're at senior management, this truck didn't show up. And I said today, actually this morning, I was in a meeting with a large blue chip shipper, and I said, we are going to make mistakes. If you're expecting us to be 100% on time every time, this terms and conditions is not going to work. And he laughed, and he's like, you're the first person to actually come in here and say that to me. And this is where it's at. If you're getting onboarded and you want us to be a carrier of choice or a logistics company, we are not going to be 100%. We are human. We are going to make mistakes, and there's got to be room there for to play. You don't drive across country and not run an amber light. It just happens. No matter what you do, you will run an amber light. It's just the nature of the game. Part of an amber, full amber. How far can you go? And I'm giving you that analogies because that's a simple traffic analogy that we have all done it. It's like saying I'm going to drive to work every day and not speed. It just doesn't work. You have to do 1 kilometer over the speed limit. I mean, you could, but it will take more energy worrying about 1 kilometer over the limit than anything else. So that's I know it doesn't really make sense, but that's the way I look at it.
No, it doesn't. I love the fact that the little story you were telling about, he said no one, said that before, because that shows that you're genuine, which people can tell, and that's the kind of people that you want to gravitate towards.
In this business, what I find happens quite a bit is people tend to lose relationships with decision makers when they're not making decisions. In other words, when there's a logistics manager or somebody giving out freight, especially, everybody wants to be their friends when they are at that role that affects their life. And what happens now is that person moves on, they drop everything, they forget totally about that person, and then they move on to the next logistics manager. I'm not going to use the word that say they are in general kiss ass to that person that's there, but they forget all about them. And one thing that I've done is no matter where a person go, I've always maintained contact with them. No matter if they are, they've left and they decided that, hey, I'm going to open my own business or go work for a competitor. You've maintained contact with them regardless of what happens. I've got past employees as well that, at the time they went on to different corporate companies and, maybe doing better, maybe not. I don't know, but I still, if they left on good terms, I still maintain contact with them. There's nothing wrong with keeping those connections because you never know who's going to be that decision maker or where you're going to need that person or they're going to need you or impacting their life in many ways. So in today's business, it's very important to maintain long-term relationships. Just dropping a line once in a while, it's not going to kill you. Just say, hey, I haven't heard from you a bit. How's the new job working out? Wish you all the success, so forth. I do weird things here. It's Halloween, and I would send to customers in the States, and I would actually send them Halloween presents. And it's weird. It says trucking can be spooky. No need to worry, but the competitors use SK Cornerstone. Happy Halloween. It's funny. It's not Christmas. They're not accepting anything. And it's an edible arrangement. It gets there with trucking can be spooky from the team at SK Cornerstone. It puts a good smile on their face because, again, it's Halloween. I've done Valentine's Day. I sent Valentine's chocolates to my customer. Basically, we love you as a shipper and no matter what. And it goes back to maintaining that relationship. I've always maintained that. And I think that's part of the reward. It takes a while for that to come around, and it has been.
Well, I can for sure tell it comes across as genuine when you talk about those relationships, but also it's the little things that matter. So I'm sure it might seem little to some people, but they feel, seen and very special when they get that somebody even thought about them. It doesn't matter what the occasion is.
So I've got a good one to tell you. I've had the shipper and they're in the States and I was trying to get into them and just in generally the head logistics person, they won't give me a time of the day. And our trucks were running down there and we really needed the reload. We really needed the freight to come back because we were running, we didn't have the core business at the time and we needed to get those trucks reloaded. And I came up with this idea to get this guy's attention. So I sent him a charcuterie board with SK Cornerstone logo on it. And it had a little note that was handwritten, says, get on board with SK Cornerstone. And you know what? It's we made it in the shop because we have a guy here. He's talented. He's a driver that does a little bit of woodwork. And I sent it to him, and he picked up the phone and he called me and he goes, in my 20 years of doing this business, I have never seen somebody send me a piece of board before. And it's a $4 piece of wood that just says, get on board with SK Cornerstone. And it's a board. And I've got his attention, and we've maintained that business, and it's been 3.5 years. So again, it doesn't have to be anything out the top. It's something that the customer reminds you of. They remember you of, hey, they're getting 500 cold calls a day, and this is the one guy who sent me this weird board. It's not a pen, it's nothing crazy, but that's typically that I found works. So
Yeah,
whoever's
again, it's the
listening to the
thought that
podcast,
counts.
they can take that. Hey, get on board, and they can take my my charcuterie board ID.
For sure. No, I'm sure you got a bunch of those stories just by the way you talk, I can tell. But okay, so you've also said that you encourage your employees to buy homes and build wealth. That's not something you normally hear from a company owner. Where do you think that philosophy came from, and how has it shaped your culture or your work culture?
That's a good question. So we have a young team here, and part of this company is built on a real estate platform where we own the real estate that our trucks park. We've owned, I think upwards of 7 acres where our trucks completely parked in a region that's, it's all industrial zone, and it's just all public information. You can look it up. And one of the things that I like to do is make sure that our employees are, not necessarily giving them advice, but finding out little things like, hey, the real estate market is changing. Are you guys renting? Are you guys buying? And they ask me all the time, Yudi, we don't want to buy a piece of property, or we don't want to buy a home because they don't know how stable their job was. And I put it out there because each and every one of the individuals that work for me, I take that personally. I take that personally as a leader, that I have to make sure that they are successful. If my people and everyone that works here, if they can't pay their bills or they can't live, that's up to me as a leader to ensure that they can work a decent life, afford a home, and, be successful at what they do. Everyone who wants their own home. And if they're disciplined enough with what we make in the area we live in Southern Ontario, they can eventually, buy a place of their own. There's programs out there, and they can look and work towards that if they're not, spending their money recklessly, I guess.
No, see, I mean, going back to you saying, your strong suit was to be a leader, I can fully see that based on everything you tell me. There's a lot of traits that you have there. I mean, I'm sure we can all tell we all had bosses that were horrible. They're kind of those people that are just like, hey, do this, do that. But they're, being in the trenches and actually caring about your employees and the people that work with you is a big deal. And I could definitely tell that you take that very seriously.
I do take that very seriously. I do take that very seriously, because if I fail as a person, I fail the team. I fail their families. I fail their kids. It's a big responsibility to feed the entire staff. I take that very personally, because it's something that I like to do, and I like to give, and I like to make sure that the team's, prosperity. I'm not the person at the top saying, hey, give me more, while, my employees are out there struggling, or they can't, single mom of 2 or whatever it is, can't pay their bills within, fair reasoning. So we do go above and beyond for our people. Once, they are in a rhythm, and employee turnover is something that we've not had a lot of in the last 3.5 years. Our employee turnover is very low here. I think we are at a 96% retention in our team, and I think that speaks boundaries compared to a 96% rotation in previous years. So that's a full 360, because I've also matured a lot from, as a personal aspect, from when you're 30s or in your 40s. And I think that's also helped me with the boundaries and setting the goals for employees, and helping them, mentoring them, and doing the best that I can for them.
Yeah, that turnover rate is a big deal. It speaks volumes because it shows, that you're taking care of your employees and the culture that you built is amazing. That's why people want to stay there. But so now we always end with a little forward thinking. I guess logistics is changing really fast. So is I guess every industry when it comes to automation and AI. That's the hot topic now. From your perspective, where do you think AI would make the biggest impact in trucking and logistics in general?
This is a tough question regarding the technology aspect of it. I think the AI aspect of it will make a big impact in the warehousing sector. I definitely think that the technology to move parcels around or skids around in a warehouse, I think that's one of the areas where it would make a giant impact. I think the second area where we'll make a lot of impact is the forecasting of market trends when it comes to consumer and transportation. I think it's going to definitely play an impact there. And I think it's also going to impact the next generation. The human approach to transportation will slowly disappear. We've seen that over the last 2 to 3 years and over the last 10 over emails, because no one wants to pick up the phone anymore. You get a phone call and it's like, someone's calling me. Or should I answer? And the new generation or the younger generation, they rather it over email or text me and I think text is great. If you have something to remind somebody of, I think text is great. If you have something to tell somebody, I think text is phenomenal. If you have a message to convey and you want to put some thought behind it and you want to put some heart behind it, depending what the message is, you got to pick up the phone. If you mess up a customer shipment, the person on the other end sending an email late for delivery, it's just another email late for delivery. It's not, hey, why are we late for delivery? We know what's the human side of it. I think AI will definitely play a big role in that. I think AI will play a big role in fuel consumption and engine advancement. I think that's something that we're going to see coming along the pipeline, where fuel efficiency will improve with technology. And the last but not least, I think AI will ensure that there's a stable platform across the board when it comes to relationships. It's going to make the relationship part of it out of the equation, and it's going to create a level playing platform when it comes to maintaining bandwidth across databases. So it's not, hey, I've got your RFQ and you're high on this. I think AI is going to go in there and personal decisions will be less and less and less. It'll be all by data.
True. You hit a lot of good points there. And I think as time goes on, I think it's a little early, but as time goes on, there will be more chances and more advancements for smaller operators to compete with the bigger players. Of course, it's not there yet since we're still so early on. But do you think you guys will look at implementing anything when it comes to, maybe the back end operations kind of thing? Of course, it can't replace people, so you still need that aspect.
That's a good question. As we look at our new building, we're on track to possibly build a new building here. It's definitely in the forefront of putting that into our new facility. But then again, it also depends on the type of products we move here. We do not move everything that's generic, square. It's not all one SKU. It's all mixed products, mixed items, fresh, frozen, different pallets. Pallets are from meat to fish to frozen ice cream to tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers to dry goods, seeds, grains, everything come across our dock. And that's important for our facility. With that being said, I don't think the technology is there for us in the next 3 to 4 years. In 5 to 8, yes. We would definitely put some of them in place, which is, it's already out there. Face recognition systems for a warehouse, it's still, all AI technology just to make sure that our warehouse is secure. We've got small things where, and this is nothing new. It's been out there for, in the early 2000s. Your time card system is all, geofence when your employees within the yard, the hour starts and so forth. So yes, we definitely will look at some of that, but I don't think we would be all in to that market just quite yet.
Okay. Yeah, no, well, I actually like that approach because I feel like everyone wants to get involved somehow, but they don't know the right places or the right way to implement it. So it shows that you actually thought about it, and it's not something that you should just jump into.
Yeah, I mean, you could do different things. You could hire a consultant and try and figure it out. And, the system's not broken. Our system is not broken. We don't need to fix something that's not broken. At the end of the day, we can get fancy with saying whatever we want, but logistics is come down to three basic things: pick up on time, deliver on time, and make sure that you send the billing effectively so you get paid on time. That's it. Shippers, we can go there and blast them with new QR code technology. We can blast them with whatever we want. I mean, we can go there with 500 version of ChatGPT and big spreadsheets, but really and truly, it comes down to pick up on time, deliver on time, and send the bills in on time to get paid. That's it. That's what trucking. That's what logistics is about. There's no secret sauce to it. That's it. Be competitive, and that's where I'm going to leave that one, because it's very straight. And if you can win, we try and win 95% of the time. It doesn't always happen, but we try and win 95% of the time. What is a win? A win is picking up on time, delivering on time, billing the customer on time, ensuring that we collect our payments on time. That is a win. If we can do that 95% of time, consistency, I would chalk that up as a win across the board at 95% consistency.
Perfectly said. I like how you made it very simple about what logistics is about. That was straightforward.
I mean, I watch these shows and I watch across the board, and I see all the LinkedIn influencers, and they try and put out so much information about market trends and all this, and shippers want this and shippers want that. Like, shippers, really and truly, all shippers, and I don't care if you're sitting at a C-suite executive level or you're sitting at a mom and pop shop, they want the most cost-effective transportation ever, and they want to do it with the most reliable service they can pay for the best possible pricing that they can have. And it comes down to cost per case, per packaging, per delivery. That's the bare matrix of it. It's cost per parcel, cost per case, cost per truckload, cost per 10 truckload, cost per 20 truckload, cost per location. It's all a simple matrix. And if you can master that 95% of the time, offering that, larger shippers will stick with you versus, oh my God, you're so terrible. Mistakes are going to happen and those amber lights are going to pop up. So I hope that explains that part.
No, that's a perfect way to end it. But Yudi, thanks you. This has been an awesome conversation. There's a lot of good insights for a lot of people. We, touched a little bit about everything. Let's say for everyone that wants to learn more about SK Cornerstone Group and maybe connect with you also directly, what's the best place for them to reach you?
You can check us out on the World Wide Web, www.skcornerstone.com. Follow me on LinkedIn at Yudi Persaud, YUDI, as the fastest growing trucking company in Southern Ontario.
Nice. You guys heard it there. Go check them out. Well, again, I really appreciate your time. Everyone, this has been another episode of Inside AutoMind. Stay tuned for more stories from the people driving logistics forward. Until next time.
Take care.